Good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you tonight. First of all, a couple of announcements. As you came in this evening on your chair, there should have been some of these little postcards. This is from Minnesota Audubon regarding the ballot measure that is coming up in November with the Environmental Natural Resources Trust Fund. So please take a look at that. If you'd like some others of the postcards to have to give out to people in your lives or to leave in any different arenas of your life, there's plenty up here for you to poach from as well. As you might know, we have decided not to run our fall North Shore field trip like we have in the past. We're just going to give it a year break. But we are looking forward to Sundays in November at 10 o'clock at Superior Entry, the Goal Watch resuming with Clinton and Christina. That's Sundays at 10 o'clock at Superior Entry, the Goal Watch. All right, what was my other announcement that we have officially changed our name. At our last meeting, we had a vote of the general membership to change it to the Northeastern Minnesota Bird Alliance. Our board of directors met late last month and affirmed that vote, that we took our own vote to change the name, and the paperwork has been filed with the Secretary of State. I, in fact, got an email from them today saying that it's been received and filed and accepted. So thanks to all the task force and everybody who was involved in the whole process. Of course, it'll take some time to transition fully into the name change with all of our media and other things. So please be patient with that. And now, yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah, Jan, you had an announcement. Thank you.
I have some giveaways. They're in the car because they're not really clean. But I have problems with pigeons and squirrels messing up things. So one of the things I have in the car is a smallish seed, sunflower seed feeder inside a cage thing. And if you hang the two, that'll keep some of the bigger birds out of your. So is there anybody who would agree to come to my car and pick that up right afterwards that could use that? No.
We got to take her.
And the other thing is a seed saver. Do you know what they are? The squirrels just killed one of them, and I've got the other one left. You attach it to a post under your bird feeder, and instead of the seeds scattering on the ground, they'll scatter in the seed saver, and then you can reuse them or whatever. If they're moldy wet, get rid of them. Anybody want the seed saver? Especially because the squirrels jump on mine. What'd you say?
He's just adding commentary.
Okay.
Did this not work for you, this stuff?
Because a squirrel broke off the other
Okay.
one.
Yeah, well,
You want to try it?
sure.
Then
But
bring it
I've
back
got
to
the
you.
same issue.
Okay, great. If
Thank
anybody
you.
wants to see
I'll
that,
follow you.
yeah, if anybody wants to see it afterwards, just follow us. I'll show you what it is.
I was just saying that seed saver is a good idea for pine systems who have terrible table manners and throw the seed everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, now it is customary to share any observations and things you've been noticing and seeing out there. Anything you'd like to share?
Lots and lots of robins and blue jays.
Yeah.
Oh, hundreds.
I've had a Harris's sparrow at my feeder for 3 days now, and it's a fun treat to see it mingling with the local white-crowned and white-throated sparrows.
What does it look like?
They're kind of a large, chunky sparrow. Have you seen fox sparrows before?
Yeah.
Okay, imagine a fox sparrow, but whole different profile. No streaks down the front, so they got kind of black patches, golden bars down the back there.
Not what I saw.
Okay, they're kind of their own distinct bird, and they're basically very late September, first half of October specialty down the central flyaway.
I was talking to a woman at Hawk Ridge to Madison, and their Audubon group had changed it to a regional name. So everyone knows
Yes. I know less about this than some of you will, but I live on the point between the bridge and the S-curve, and I'm not used to seeing songbirds all over the shore. They are just all over the shore. There are a few sanderlings left, but they're mostly gone. But just all kinds of songbirds. But
There have been scads of juncos, pond warblers, and yellow rumps along the shore.
yeah,
It's just-
some of them will fly out over the water. They must somehow have some long distance sense from some bug out there.
Anything else you all have been seeing?
Do you feel like you're seeing more pigeons than normal?
we only allow 3 in our backyard.
Oh, how exclusive!
Okay, I'll have to state that when I'm just,
You know, what are their pigeons? We're in Lakeside and we never have had pigeons.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yes, a lot.
They'll move around locally, like from neighborhood to neighborhood, wherever the food is probably most plentiful this time of year. They don't really migrate per se, but they are kind of a flocking social bird. So with the changing of the season, even if we're not seeing them by like the big masses like the hawks are, they might hop around from different feeders, different parts of the neighborhood.
We just see them on the road.
Oh yeah, there's beef pigeons. Yeah.
You suppose pigeons are celebrating that the peregrines have gone south?
Very likely.
Peregrine pigeon party. Anything else you'd like to share?
One quick thing to note, just in regards to the Raptor talk that's going to take place, Hug Ridge has had its first rough-legged hawk a few days ago, and our first golden eagles came through not quite a week ago, and it wasn't just 1 or 2, but we had 4 in one afternoon, which was a pretty special treat, all within about a 2-hour period. So it's the late season raptors are now showing up with a little greater frequency as of late.
Well, speaking of raptors in Hawk Ridge, we are delighted to have Erik Bruhnke here with us from Hawk Ridge, but also from Victor Emmanuel Nature Tours. In fact, tonight we almost lost him into the Darien Gap. He almost fell right in. There was a possibility of heading to Panama, but we are lucky that you didn't. Maybe you're unlucky. I don't know how you feel about it, but we are so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So my name's Erik. My heart is warm and happy seeing all of you here this evening. A lot of friends from just past times up at Hawk Ridge and all. And over the next 45, 50-ish minutes, what you're gonna see is my rendition on looking at raptors from different angles, different perspectives, giving you kind of a holistic way of appreciating each raptor species that comes through the area. And just also to note too, all the photos which you're about to see are my own from my past years of working at Hawk Ridge over the years and various hawk watches throughout the country too. So this right here is a Cooper's hawk. Most of the Cooper's hawks have come through the area. A lot of fun things to cover. Basically, the bulk of my talk is going to be a species by species account of how to look at that bird and appreciate it differently. And we'll start off though with what I call Raptor Zen. And those that have heard it with me before, whether it's on the point or at the ridge, have heard me talk about birding Zen. And I'm not just being like kind of crazy about this term birding Zen. It is, I firmly believe that birding Zen is a very special thing to embrace. And that is when you're out enjoying the hawks, you don't worry about stuff back home. You don't worry about the plants, hopefully you water them. You don't worry about this or that or anything in life. Just enjoy the moments with the birds. And when you enjoy more moments with the birds and just kind of be holistic about the birding as the birds fly through, you're going to see things from different angles. Like for example, this sharp-shinned hawk right here. So we really can't tell if it's big or small, but you look at behavior when you actually watch birds. That's why they call it bird watching, not bird glance and identify and look away, right? So what we're going to be doing is looking at raptors differently. The projector does a good job of showing most things. Contrast can be a little different. I'm just going to temporarily pan this around for a moment so you can see. Feel free to look at the screen or this. Does everyone see this first of all?
Sure.
All right, and I know it's dark out. If you happen to bring binoculars and use your binoculars during my talk, I take no offense to that too. truly, take no offense to that. So this form right here, does everyone see how it's mostly wings with the little tail? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what you're about to see in just a moment is this right here, the same image. So even this picture, let's say that it's a blank species, I'll get to that in a moment, flying through a snowstorm or through fog, okay? From this silhouette alone, thicker in the inner wing, a little bit of a tail, got the what they call patagial mark, the shoulder pads right there. We can narrow this unpleasant through the snow silhouette down to species just by its form. And then with more color and how we view things on a more typical basis, you can see and appreciate this bird as a red-tailed hawk, right? Part of the reason why I'm showing this bird as it is, both in black and white, in a synthesized snowstorm, if you will, but also from this view, is that not all red-tailed hawks have red tails. Juveniles do not. So you can't always tell a red-tailed hawk by the tail color. But one thing that's uniform is, just be a little, here we go. There are several things that are going to be constant regardless of young or old, and that is all red-tailed hawks have a belly band. All red-tailed hawks have kind of in the wrist area, they call it wrist comma. And then all red-tailed hawks have little shoulder pads that can be seen on the screen. It can definitely be, it's a careful staring, can be seen a little bit on the projector screen as well. Okay, so keeping it simple, those three things all red-tailed hawks will show, regardless of young or old. So again, we're going to be looking at raptors. We're going to be looking at raptors differently. This is a picture taken when I was helping out at a hawk watch in Pennsylvania years ago. And just like Hawk Ridge, they get a lot of cool low-angled raptors flying by at eye level sometimes. And this is a red-tailed hawk because, well, even without seeing the underwing, has that beautiful bow tail, adult red-tailed hawk with this one. So I know Gail has heard me say this before, and several of you have heard me say this before up at Hawk Ridge. Ignore size 100% when looking at raptors. And here's the scoop. When you're looking at a raptor in flight, there's some things that are going to be constant. There's some things that are going to be subjective, okay? So let's say that a beautiful state bird, common loon, okay? Note how big the loon seems to all of you, okay? Now note how big or small the loon seems to you. Notice how the apparent size changes. Size is only known if you have something to compare to of a known size, or if you know the distance. But all things considered, when you're looking at raptors, including on my little show right here, ignore size 100%. Don't even let it think about, oh, the bird looks so big, or it could have been kind of small. The two things that are always constant are shape. Remember, as I move that loon back and forth, the shape is still constant. And behavior, whether it's a fluttery bird here or a fluttery bird back here. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? The behavior is going to be constant regardless of how the bird is viewed. This right here is a northern harrier. Long tail, long streamlined, kind of tubular body, pointed wingtips. So we're talking about shape. The bird on the left is a juvenile peregrine falcon. Let's not worry about the age. Peregrine falcon. This bird is built for stealth and agility. Can everyone see that? Sharp, pointed, angular wings. On the right, here we have a northern harrier. A little bit bigger in the hand area, not quite as pointed. Their wings are specially designed for bounding and kind of cruising low over fields. They're also known as a marsh hawk. But with the shape, notice what you see. And maybe notice what you don't see when you look at these raptors, okay? This is that birding zen we're talking about again. Notice what you see and recognize what you don't see. We're getting into more little nitty-gritty stuff. I'm going to do my best to keep it simple and definitely make it fun for you as we talk about these different topics. So here we have an adult bald eagle going after an osprey that was temporarily hiding a fish. Okay, bald eagles, they will pester osprey for food sometimes. Notice the wing shape. Can everyone see how the bald eagle is a little thicker all the way through the wing? It's good, and I like the head nodding too. So when you see the eagle soaring around, whether it's a straight underwing view or even from a little bit of a side, eagles always have a certain girth or thickness from wingtip to wingtip. Ospreys are a little more slender, a little more tapered, little skinnier, I guess, profiled throughout their wing. And then one other thing, this kind of goes along behavior. Notice how the raptors hold their wings. Regardless of the conditions, ospreys always fly with a hunch, kind of like a gull, okay? Like an oversized gull. Got the M profile to the wings. This is the Cape May Lighthouse. If you've ever been out to Cape May, New Jersey, you might recognize this just on the edge of the Hawkwatch platform out there. And here we have a bald eagle Not quite as hunched. Take this with a grain of salt sometimes, but in general, bald eagles are very, very level winged, like a plank of wood for the most part, okay? Now golden eagles. As this bird comes around, the wings are going to be lifted a little off the shoulders. So a little more upturned than a bald eagle, but not quite the extent of a turkey vulture, which is very upturned proportionately. Does everyone see that? We're talking about gradients of the angle and how the raptors hold their wings. All right, so we're talking about these different varieties of raptors, different families of raptors. We're going to cover them all the ones that are found here on a regular basis, and even talk about some of the rarities. This right here is a peregrine falcon. Again, sleek, pointy, built for speed. So we're going to start off again with red-tailed hawk. Red-tailed hawks are really cool. I feel that as a birder, they are often underappreciated, and that's all the more reason to enjoy them, sincerely. They come in light forms, they come in dark forms, they come in regional varieties of light forms and dark forms. It's absolutely magical where red-tailed hawks come from and where they overwinter, where they kind of mix and mingle as they make their way south. Hawk Ridge happens to be a very special area where we get some red-tailed hawks from central Canada, a little bit of northeastern Canada, even up in Alaska. They all kind of funnel down the central flyway, typically going down the shore of Lake Superior. As we go through each of the species that comes, I looked. This is updated as of half an hour ago while I was having dinner. This is the most up-to-date count according to hawkcount.org. So that's kind of the main home base for where a lot of hawk watches have their data entered on a daily basis. This is what's been tallied up at Hawk Ridge as of today. So red-tailed hawks will always have kind of thick hands, proportionally short tail. They're a boodio. Boodios are the wide-winged short-tailed raptors again. This bird on the left is an adult. You've got the reddish tail, really dark contrast of edges. This one is a juvenile, lacking that bold red tail. If you talk to any of the avid hawk watchers, you might hear juveniles tend to be paler, and that's a very common trend with red-tailed hawks. They're just a little starker, a little paler. The markings are less bold. Does everyone see that? It's a good thing to look for with juvenile. Yeah, Greg.
Do you know if red-tails and bootios change eye color as they mature, as they age, sort of like sharpshin and Cooper's hawks do?
Some do. It's not to the, it can be different shades of brown, but it's subjective and variable too. But yeah, like red-tailed hawk eye colors do change. More in the shades of kind of ambers and browns, not so much yellow to orange to red. Mm-hmm. Yep. Good question. So this is one of the reasons why I like red-tailed hawks so much personally. We got the dark horse. We got the what they call Canadian types, the northern types. This one came all the way from Alaska. This is what they call a Harlan's red-tailed hawk. Again, I'm just throwing some things out. There is a quiz later. I will not be quizzing you on these though, but there is a fun raptor quiz later. This is called a Kreider's red-tailed hawk, and they come from the core of the prairie potholes, like North Dakota, Central Canada, from the heart of the prairies, and they're unusually stark and pale, but they still have a little bit of belly band, just the right markings and just the right spots. Next we'll talk about broadwinged hawks. So broadwinged hawks. Who here has seen broadwinged hawks? Cool. So here's the scoop about broadwinged hawks. If you're looking for broadwinged hawks right now, you might get lucky, or you'll probably have to wait until springtime when we do the West Skyline Parkway spring count. Or if you want to see them in their southbound migration, you probably have to wait until about mid to late September of next year when they really peak in migration. Broadwinged hawks, we had a day of over 15,000 in a 12-hour period at Hawk Ridge alone. It was absolutely magical. Collectively, we're just short of 24,000 broadwinged hawks for the season, which is incredible. Isn't that just incredible? From one very spot that the counters have tallied so much life coming through. And these broadwinged hawks, they form kettles, which is essentially a group of swirling together raptors, kind of like a flock of raptors per se. Broadwing hawks are a small boodio species, but you can't go by size. Remember, you can't go by size. Proportionate to the body, they're much shorter winged and much more pointy winged than red-tailed hawks are. Trailing edge of a Broadwing hawk's wing comes out and tapers up towards the tip. So kind of angular back edge of the wing. Everyone see that? A little double angling, double edge, and a full sword. This is a young Broadwing hawk because of the brown tail. Here's another young Broadwing hawk, just to show that they're kind of lightly marked or poorly marked as young birds. But again, short tail still has that little tipped appearance. They do a lot of soaring. Now here's what a lot of us think of as a Broadwing hawk, as far as what to look for when they stand out in their own sense. The bands and the tail. Everyone know what I'm talking about? So this only occurs with the adult Broadwing hawks. Young ones don't show that. But they're a really cool looking bird. Once again, really pointed wingtips, overwintering through central and even upper parts of South America. Amazing journey that they go through every year. And once again, as far as fall goes, typically mid till late September is when they peak in migration. Here's a picture of a few broad-winged hawks migrating over Hawk Ridge. Absolutely magical. And also too, and I really mean this to each and every one of you, when you see this kind of stuff, it is okay to cry because it is absolutely magical. It is breathtaking. It doesn't matter if you've seen it for the first time or like some of us, we've been fortunate to have experienced this for many years. It's just an amazing experience to say the least.
When you see that many all at once, how do you count?
Very carefully. To answer your question, you have clickers, and in this whole mess of birds, some birds are going here, 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 here. They're swirling around, and you can get a sense of density of birds. You know, kind of like a grid, 10 by 10 is 100, for example. But all this pepper flakes are moving. So what you do is wait until the pepper flakes reach a certain point, and eventually one bird, two bird, three birds, and they all start to stream down like a river. And that's when, through your binoculars, you are acting like a visual migratory toll booth. You click them as they stream through your view. So this exact moment in time, hard to count them. But you give them a minute or two once they start to stream, and then you just click them like a little drive-through toll booth in migration sense, yeah. Yeah.
Erik, you know, since they go down to South America, whereas the red-tails tend to stay in southern United States.
Definitely.
Do they stay together like that all the way down the Mississippi River migratory border and across? And do they go down over Mexico then to get to South America? They don't cross the Gulf, right?
No, broadwings in particular, they're not fond of water. They stay clear of or as best as they can, flying over large bodies of water. They'll mix and mingle with. Oh yeah, like big numbers there. When I do my October Panama tours, they really gather in big numbers throughout kind of central Panama as well, beyond Central America, Veracruz down through Costa Rica. They will. They'll mix with other kettles. It's a big messy gathering of kettle by kettle by kettle, and they'll kind of disperse and regroup. And yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Next we have in the bootios we have rough-legged hawks. So rough-legged hawks. These beautiful bootios are from the far north, Arctic tundra, if you will. And notice too, I don't mean to anthropomorphize. They're kind of cute in the front part of their face. They have a very small beak relative to their fluffy head. And one of the thoughts about that, you have a small beak and also quite proportionally small feet. You have less surface area in areas where there's blood flowing. That means less heat loss when you're a far northern cold weather raptor. So here we have the very, we'll call it well insulated in respect to the bird, well insulated rough-legged hawk. All rough-legged hawks will have these beautiful carpal patches. Carpal means wrist. So regardless of male, female, they'll always have these dark spots kind of in their mid-wing. Very long-winged, very graceful wing beats. We've had one this season, and fingers crossed we're going to be seeing more, especially as we get closer to like Halloween and into November. They come in a light morph and a dark morph, which is really cool. And They're coming, like I said, from the Arctic tundra. So when I do my tours up in Alaska, we get to see them in Nome specifically, western part of Alaska, nesting on cliffs. And it's so cool to see these birds from a whole world away from where we are right now, nesting on cliffs, looking for little lemmings and voles. They come down here and they look for similar prey, just in the more open fields. So they love farm fields, vast grasslands, because there's often a lot of rodents that gather there. For comparison, we can see a dark morph and a light morph rough-legged hawk. Notice how long-winged they are. Not talking size, but can everyone see that relative to the spot of the bird's body? See how the wings really stream way off the body? That's a good feature of rough-legged hawks. So next we'll go through Swainsons. We are covering the whole shebang of raptors that are possible here. These guys are pretty scarce. We've counted 2 this season, and it was fun. Sean had picked out one. This is like, I think it was mid or early September, and then a few minutes later, I had picked out a different one, and they were for sure different ones based on the flight of their presence. But our 2 seen for the season happened to have been on one day this past September, and they're a raptor of the prairies. So prairie specialists, North Dakota, South Dakota, Central Canada is where they're typically coming from. The ones that we see here. And they're known for 2-toned underwings, kind of like an inverse vulture. Does everyone see that? As far as dark trailing edge, light leading edge, and very pointy wing too. Not to overwhelm, but they do come in different darknesses too. This is oftentimes how more classic Swainson's hawk looks. Just a long wing, very long pointy wing boodio. Really beautiful too. We typically see them in September when they do show up, and they're usually associated with really strong western fronts. So if you have howling west winds blowing across the prairies, there's a greater chance that those birds may drift towards the shore of Lake Superior and funnel down into Hawk Ridge. Next, we have red-shouldered hawks. We've seen one this fall. That might be the one of the fall. There might be another one if we're lucky. Basically, these do not occur in the boreal forest. And when we see them up at Hawk Ridge, it's typically a little confused bird that migrated in a little different fashion. They're found through like up to central Wisconsin, central Minnesota, and that's kind of the cutoff, south of the Northwoods, if you will. Just keeping it simple for these guys, all red-shouldered hawks have pale crescents or pale kind of watches in their wings. That's a little feature to look for with the adult on the left and the juvenile on the right. So again, they're quite rare for the area. I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but just to show, here's an adult red-shouldered hawk, beautiful red patterning below, and then the young are a little more blotchy, a little unkempt in their own beautiful way. Cool markings through the underbelly, kind of scraggly patterning through the underwings. But notice how, if you kind of take a step back with your view of them and just look at the light and dark areas, can everyone see how there is a little bit of transparent area in the wrist area? That's a good feature to look for all red-shouldered hawks. All right. So you're probably thinking like the thinker. We're covering so many raptors, and what's next? So now we'll talk about bald eagles. We've had over 3,000 bald eagles counted this fall at Hawk Ridge. That's a lot of bald eagles. And just putting in a quick little plug for scientists, for females involved with that industry too, it's people like Rachel Carlson that made a significant difference for bald eagles, for peregrine falcons, for watersheds, and so much more. And years ago when DDT was outlawed, no coincidence, people that were studying eagles found that year by year, hey, there's a few more eagles, and they're actually reproducing and making young that aren't having eggshells prematurely break when they sit on them. So a lot of times in life, just throwing it out there, even in our own backyards, it's maybe what we don't do that can make a difference. As far as organic, native landscaping, keeping your yards free of certain pesticides, it can make a big difference through the watershed, and it can help birds like bald eagles. So this is an adult bald eagle. White head, white tail, chocolate brown all the way through. But not all bald eagles look like that. Believe it or not, they take about 5 years to reach their adult plumage. Plumage is kind of the appearance of a bird. So Again, we're not going to go into the 1, 2, 3, 4. That's too much. They mix and mingle between those appearances too. But some of the younger bald eagles can look like this. Okay. Now, something to note is there's a lot of times, this happens at Hawk Ridge quite regularly, people will come to the Hawk Watch and they say, oh, we just had a golden eagle maybe in August or early September when we don't typically see any golden eagles. What they're often seeing is a young bald eagle. So I'm just going to throw this little pointer out there. If you see a tricky bald eagle, golden eagle-ish bird of some sort, that if you could apply deodorant in this area right here, had a little bit of white in the innermost wing pit, that is for sure a bald eagle. Golden eagles will never show white wing pits. Young bald eagles do. We're not talking the rest of the wing, we're not talking about anything else of the bird. But if you see a messy looking eagle with white in the wing pits like this bird, it is a bald eagle. Here's another young bald eagle flying by. Really cool patterning as they kind of go through these teenage appearances. Just beautiful. And it's so fun to think that this bird turns into that bird about 5 years later. Isn't that cool? This picture was taken while helping with the Spring Watch a few years ago on West Skyline. And what's really neat, if you ever get the chance to visit there, which I highly recommend too, because it is an underappreciated count by Hawk Ridge. If you come out, really bundle up in the earlier parts of spring when we still have ice and snow around. On sunny days, the sun reflects off of the ice and snow and it illuminates the birds from below. Like you took a full spectrum bulb and shined it. That's how almost all the raptors look in the earlier part of spring. It's really cool to see raptors that are non-silhouetted, like they often are. So here we have golden eagles. Golden eagles are similar to bald eagles. Big old eagle. One of the things about golden eagles is they're very slightly smaller headed and longer tailed than a bald eagle. I'm going to show you something for a moment. An impromptu. Let's see. It kind of shows. I have a little diagram coming up later. But notice how the head sticks off well beyond like the shoulder area. And notice how long the tail is here. If you're to take this bird's head and shrink it and pull the tail out ever so slightly, so you're just kind of like pulling its extremities through the body, you'd end up with the proportions of this. Very slightly, proportionally longer tailed off the back end, and the head is kind of scrunched, almost vulture-like. Does everyone see that? And we were all seeing that before, but until I mentioned it, you maybe or maybe didn't realize that you were seeing that. So that's something to look for with golden eagles. Okay? They also have a certain curviness to their back edge or the trailing edge of the wing. Does everyone see that too? It's like the innermost wing, or what they call the secondaries. It's like a little panel that tapers into the wing pits typically. Bald eagles come out straight. They're thick-winged, heavy-winged all the way through the hips. And here's a golden eagle that they actually put a little telemetry tracker on out in Cape May that they did some raptor banding, and it was neat to see a golden eagle in the hand and then let it go. They're amazingly beautiful and powerful birds, as are bald eagles too. So just for comparison, notice the length of the tail and the curviness to the back edge of the wing on the golden eagle. Bald eagles are shorter tailed and the wings come out straight. Okay, keep it simple, keep it simple. Just look at those few things. An appreciation of how these two birds are designed. So they've had 173 osprey counted this fall. Osprey have also shown considerable increases thanks to DDT elimination, also thanks to osprey nesting platforms. Just driving around various parts of Minnesota, you might see osprey platforms that have been installed. Here's a little baby osprey on its nest. And osprey are really cool. They're long-winged, kind of eagle-like in some regards. And all osprey, regardless of young or old, will have a dark mask. And the thought of why they have this dark mask has to do with where they're found. And if you think of other creatures that use black around the face, let's say the creatures that play basketball, or the creatures, baseball or football per se, the sport players, they put the smudge on the cheeks. That reduces glare. When you're a bird of prey and you spend your entire life from day one around water, you want a little bit of these natural sunglasses or glare reducers. So that's in theory why osprey have dark going all the way through their face from their youngest points on. Has to do with glare reduction. So osprey have crooked wings, kind of like a gradual M. Sometimes that M is more exaggerated depending on the angle at which they're seen. And a cool little thing, this is an underappreciated field mark. Just like rough-legged hawks, all osprey have carpal patches as well. That's that kind of that dark mid-wing area. But notice how long, kind of gull-like the ospreys are. Long wing. And all of a sudden you go from a soaring osprey to a gliding osprey. A little more M profile, but still very long-winged relative to the body. Yeah, great.
The notion is that arc of the wings helps them gain width when they often dive because they go under the water more. Eagles, I think, tend to snatch the fish out of the water, but they don't plunge in as much as ospreys do they?
Depends on the experience, yeah. Yeah, osprey, both of those raptors will fish gracefully, and both, I've seen both where they kind of kerplunk into the, yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned before that the ball goes after oftentimes the osprey's food, if I heard you correctly.
Yep.
And I saw an experience like that on, I think, I'm a transplant and I'm an amateur, so.
That's cool.
And it was the Cloquet River with one of those platforms.
Yeah.
I saw an aerial battle going on that was just, my heart still pounds when I remember it.
Oh yeah.
Now, would the eagle have eaten the osprey's young if it was up there?
Likely not. Likely not. It's more so. Bald eagles do what's called kleptoparasitism, which kleptoparasitism. It's a fancy term. It means to steal food,
Okay.
and they do that by pestering and bullying osprey. The osprey will eventually get tired of midair and just say, "Screw it, have your meal." And bald eagles will occasionally catch the fish in midair too, but it's a whole just kind of bullying for food thing.
I mean, the
Bald
vocal
eagles-
screams and shrieks and
Yeah,
the swoop of the wings was just unbelievable.
Yeah, the bald eagles are kind of bullies like that. Osprey are kind of dainty with their personality of how they go about moving through the air. Just leave it at that. Yeah.
I've seen actually the opposite. I've seen an eagle, a bald eagle, initially trying to get after the osprey's fish, but then landing in a tree, and the osprey would do these like swoops at the eagle. Every time it came up, the eagle would shriek, and then the osprey would go at it, and eventually the eagle left. But it was about a 10-minute going up and down, and the osprey was just going at that eagle. Like, it was amazing. But
the osprey may have had a nest nearby. I bet.
Yeah, it did actually.
Oh, that's probably.
But it was across the. It wasn't in the immediate vicinity of that eagle. It was across the lake. The
Gotcha.
nest.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cool.
But it wasn't afraid of the eagle.
I bet. So we got our eagles, we got our osprey, we got cool osprey stories, and now we're going to talk about vultures. Over 1,800 vultures have been seen this fall alone. They keep our roads clean. Gosh darn it, they're underappreciated. They're cool birds. Definitely underappreciated. In the world of turkey vultures, their wings are built for soaring. Okay, big, thick wings. You notice how they have kind of a reddish head? Well, believe it or not all turkey vultures have red heads. The young of the year, this year's babies, will actually have dark gray heads, lacking any color. I just saw a few at Hawk Ridge the other day. Just basically, feather-wise, they're identical. 100% they look the same as the adults. But if you see any turkey vultures, same feathers, but with all dark heads, those are the juveniles of the year.
But the young don't have feathers on their heads.
No vultures have feathers on their heads.
Okay, so the young don't either.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Basically, apples to apples. If you were to take this exact picture and make the head turn not red, you end up with a juvenile turkey vulture. All things considered. Yep. And turkey vultures, they have a V shape in their wings called dihedral, and they look like they're tightrope walking. I do a little bit of this, teetering back and forth very carefully. They do have a strong sense of smell, which allows them to pick up food. Roadkill and carrion to a turkey vulture is kind of like brownies out of the oven for a human. Okay, just saying, they love roadkill, and it works for them. Over 470 northern harriers have been seen this fall. Absolutely amazing bird. These guys are not faring well as a species. A lot of long-term trends from Hawk Ridge when I worked in Cape May as their counter for 3 years and a whole bunch of hawk watches in between. They're showing ups and downs like a lot of places, but the long-term trend, harriers are not faring well. And this is also shared with a lot of other species that are prairie specialists specifically. Prairie birds are not faring well in the current day. Reduction of native prairie habitat, cropland. Croplands are expanding quite rapidly over native grasslands. It's a very complex issue, but just to mention, a lot of prairie birds, including these ground nesting birds called northern harriers, we're seeing a lot of them still, thankfully, but it is a species that's kind of on alert for conservation help. Northern harriers, this is a juvenile northern harrier, beautiful orange. Some people call it pumpkin spice if you're into all the fancy drinks and all that stuff. But beautiful northern harriers. And when northern harrier flaps, it looks like they're bouncing basketballs with the wingtips. Those at Hawk Ridge have heard me talk about this a million times. Please excuse me. But at Hawk Ridge, when you see them flying by, or maybe even over your yard as they migrate by, here's what you're going to look for, okay? You're going to look for slapping down, bounding the wings up. Does everyone see that?
Yeah.
So a little faster with the downbeat, and they kind of snap with the wingtips down. And then they're a little slower with the upbeat. Basketballs with the wingtips, that's a northern harrier. All northern harriers have a white rump. Beautiful feature of the northern harrier. And they have long wings, and a proportionally long tail too. I mean, when we talk about length of tail, notice the size of the body. It's like half body, half tail. Everyone see that? That's what we're talking about when we talk about long or short tail, relative to the body. And here's a gray ghost, or an adult male northern harrier. He knows he's handsome with those white underwings, lemon yellow eyes, and the backsides of his wings are going to be silvery gray. Next we'll get to exhibitors. So this is a photo taken, I think it was my first year at Hawk Ridge, straight out of college. Like at Hawk Ridge, they do a lot of important raptor banding for studying where the birds go season by season. And here we have a northern goshawk in the hand, a Cooper's hawk in the hand, and a little itty bitty male sharpshin hawk in the hand too. And it's neat to see these birds in the hand, but also flying by, like this sharpshin hawk coming through. Everything about a sharpshin hawk is scrunched. Okay, so relative to the form of the bird, they're not super long-winged like a harrier. They're kind of stocky-handed. Tail is squared off relative to the whole form of the bird. Tiny heads. Everyone see that? Kind of the shrunken-in extremities is a way of talking about it. Over 15,000 have been tallied this fall alone. Isn't that amazing? Just at Hawk Ridge. So again, tiny extremities, very fluttery in all regards. The smaller the raptor or smaller a bird, the faster it flaps. As a rule of thumb for all birds of the world, minus penguins because they don't fly. But when looking at any bird that flies, really, and think about this, hummingbirds, how do hummingbirds fly? Too fast for their own good. What about bald eagles? Slow. So when you look at the gradients of sizes of birds, behavior is a clue. That's not focusing on behavior, ignoring size. And sharpshin hawks, from all angles, they always appear fluttery, quick and snappy. Here's some more different angles of sharpshin hawks in flight. Tiny head. If these were to be animated, they would all be pretty fluttery when they decide to flap. Next we'll talk about Cooper's hawks. So there's been 81 tallied this fall. And Cooper's hawks, we're kind of on the northern edge of where they are as far as Minnesota goes. They're not quite as common once you get into the boreal forest, but they are coming through. We've had several over the past week too. We're kind of on the tail end of when Cooper's hawks are coming through. Both locally you might see them, and especially as you go south into like the Twin Cities and even south and beyond, you tend to see a lot more Cooper's hawks. They like bird feeders, but not for the bird seed. If you know what I mean by that. Yeah, there's a lot of Cooper's hawks in the backyards. And they're remarkably similar to sharpshin hawks, which I want to also express this. As we're talking about accipiters, which are the short-winged, long-tailed raptors, sharpshin, Cooper's hawk, and one more to come. If you find these birds confusing, and if you always find them confusing, that is healthy, that is normal. We are human, okay? Please know, accipiters in particular are remarkably challenging even to avid hawk watchers, okay? So with this Cooper's hawk, as it flies by, it's going to be a little stiffer winged. You can see the wing beats. It's rarely as fluttery as a sharp-shinned hawk. The wings tend to be a little straighter in the soar. The head tends to come out a little beyond the shoulders. And look at the tail. See how the tail, it's like a long, it's almost like a baseball bat kind of. It's like a long extremity off of the midsection. Sharpshins are going to be shorter tail, more squared off tail. Coopers tend to be proportionately longer tail and round tail. Again, tends to be. For comparison, here are Cooper's hawks from various angles. Take from these pictures what you like. I promise you though, these are all Cooper's hawks. A little larger head, typically straighter out wings, especially in a full soar. And look at the tail, a little more rounded. So it just comes with practice. And once again, too, if you see accipiters coming through this time of year and through Halloween, we are still probably going to get a few more Cooper's hawks, but the odds are you're either going to see a very fast fluttering one, like a sharp-shinned hawk, or you might see one of these, which is going to be slower flapping, deeper, thicker winged, thicker tail. Everything about a goshawk is going to be kind of beefy or bolder than the more compact accipiters. So they used to be called northern goshawk. Earlier, I think it was this year, there was a formal split of the goshawks in Europe and Asia, and the ones that we see here, they're called American goshawks now. We're on the early side for them. They've counted 7 so far. And there's likely more to come. Fingers crossed, likely more to come. Hawk Ridge in particular is renowned among North American hawk watches in that we see unusually large concentrations of goshawk on a year-by-year basis. Some years there's relatively few, but still typically way more than most hawk watches. And some years we even get eruptions where we see like actual flights, like big flights of them coming through. So every year is different. Their migration is kind of linked to the food presence way up in Canada and northern Minnesota oftentimes. A lot of fun things to talk about, but in a nutshell, here we have an adult northern goshawk. Isn't that a cool looking bird? Just fierce. Don't mean anthropomorphized, but they're mean looking, they're fierce. They have a certain sternness. They're big eyed on their face, a little browed look. Here's an American goshawk on top of a pine, and they're a beefy bird. Okay? So one thing, if you want to impress your friends on, hey, you want to learn this cool accipiter fact? And if they say no, you're going to tell them this anyways, okay? So let's say that you have a general juvenile accipiter. Everyone know what I'm talking about, first of all. You like a brown-toned accipiter. But you don't want to say what it is. If you see lots of golden freckling through the midwing right here, that's a goshawk. Juvenile sharp-shinned hawks and juvenile Cooper's hawks have smooth brown wings. If you see golden freckles, they call it the golden bar. That's on goshawk. And that can be seen on them in flight as well. Right here, okay? Cool little thing. Here we have a juvenile American goshawk. Adult American goshawk is on the left. The eye colors change. They go from vertical streaks to this very fine number 2 pencil kind of scrawled look throughout their front side. Really, really beautiful raptors. And once again, this is the kind of bird where typically when you're in peak season to see them, I'd say middle to late October and into early November. I've always associated them personally with the bundle up weather. So it's getting colder day by day, but it's worth it when you see beautiful birds like this. Just some more pictures of American goshawk flying by. They are thick in all regards. It's finesse little raptors then, but everyone see what I'm talking about? They're a little bigger barrel chested. This one in particular is the big one. The tail appears like an extension of the hips. They're thick all the way through the mid-body, here too. And they also have a lot of streaking all the way through the undertail coverts. Sharpies and Coopers have white in this area. Goshawks have streaks. Cool little thing for you. So, on a more petite note, let's talk about falcons now, starting with the beautiful American kestrel. Who here likes American kestrels? Awesome, awesome. Yeah, you can't not, it is humanly impossible to not smile when you see a kestrel. They're kind of slappy winged, they're doing their little flight as they come through. These are delicate, but they're fierce for being as small as they are. They're the smallest of the diurnal raptors that migrates through. Very pointy winged, being a falcon, and when they fly, Their wing beats look like banana peels, little things I made up years ago. If you take the end of a banana peel, I don't know why you would do this, but if you do, and you shake it, very fluid, snaps at the inner wing and kind of flexes out through the wingtip. Very, very fluid and slappy. This is the one falcon that has the most banana peel wing beat behavior. Merlins and peregrines, not so much. So here's a male American kestrel. What a dapper bird. He's got blue wings. Females would have kind of more rusty orangey colored wings. Really beautiful complexion through the face. So for comparison, here we have, just kind of look at the upside or the upper part of the wing. Females are going to have that orangey color. Males are going to be more blue toned, very vibrant. They nest in cavities. So I'm trying to think, Frank Nicoletti, Hallie Lambo, who used to be here for several years with Hawk Ridge, and several other friends were kind of instrumental in placing a lot of these kestrel boxes throughout Saxon Bog, the outlying area, northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, and sure enough, we start seeing more of these on an annual basis because they readily use these big kestrel boxes. So they're another prairie bird in particular. If you see lots of kestrels, that's a good thing because they are prairie specialists. Neat little thing to share with you. If you look at the underwing here, look at the underwing here. Now, do you see how this is a female, this is a male? Everyone see that first of all? From the underside of the wing, males have Christmas lights. Females do not. Females have brown spots that run along their trailing edge. Males have bright white spots that are very transparent, and on sunny days, it's like a little beam of glowing Christmas lights, if you will. So a little thing to look for without even telling the sex of the bird by wing color, just by the degree of speckling below the wing, something to note. So here's a bird. This is a merlin. This bird means business too. They're fierce, they're direct, they're very dark toned, and they're shaped ever so slightly different than a kestrel. Main things to note on a merlin, very, very dark in the face, thick black banded tail, and lots of dark freckling through the underwing. They just have a darker aura to them. Over 280 have been tallied so far as of today from Hawk Ridge, and this is the time of year when we start getting both a lot of brown colored ones, which are juveniles or adult females, and we also start seeing more what they call blue jacks, which are navy blue throughout their backside. They're really pretty, so it's a cool little thing to look for when we're up at Hawk Ridge together, I should say, and you happen to see a merlin fly by with navy blue wings. That's an adult male. Merlin do not have banana peel wing beats. Instead, when they fly, they tend to be stiffer winged, and they fly like they're late for a date. They're very, very quick, fast flapping. They have this directness to them. Kestrels, they kind of lollygag through the air in general. So here's an adult male, like I was talking about. See how it's not brown, it's kind of bluish almost, or grayish blue. And a cool thing about falcons, this is a falcon trait. Falcons will eat on the wing. Here's one eating a common green darner from a few years ago. If you've ever been to Hawk Ridge, this is more of a early mid-September phenomenon where we get big flights of dragonflies coming through. Coincidentally, you may see big flights of falcons within a day or two. Migration is sparked by food availability. It's all about food. And here's another kestrel flying right over me, up at, over in Cape May from a few years ago, and he was eating on the go as well, bringing a little talon up to the mouth. So they're pretty amazing to catch food on the wing. A little more pointy wing, or a little darker complexion overall. So for comparison, kestrel on the left, merlin on the right.
Would they be capable of eating a songbird on the wing? They would be.
A few years ago, we saw a peregrine falcon. This is one of my first years at Hawk Ridge. I was helping with the Hawk Watch. We had a peregrine falcon migrate by, and it was eating something on the wing. Feathers were falling. There was a banded tail of something about yay-ish long sticking off of the bottom part of this. It had bands, and it was squared off. It was eating a sharp-shinned hawk that had caught on the wing. It's not an everyday thing, mind you, but falcons will eat on the wing, and bigger predators tend to go after bigger prey. So here we have an adult peregrine. Got the black mask, very, very sleek profile. Everything about a peregrine falcon is built for stealth. Very, very speedy, very direct. When peregrine falcons fly, they shrug with the shoulders and they slap with the hands. It's really fluid and very powerful looking. They shrug and then they extend up and they slap down. So high range of motion, very fluid with the upbeat and downbeat on peregrines. Here's an adult, a little barring, more black and white. Here is a juvenile peregrine falcon. Much more brown toned overall. And we have adult peregrine and a merlin. Again, very subtle differences, very subtle differences. Very similar, and this is a good instance of where behavior comes in. Got a few more slides. We also got a quiz coming up too for gyr falcon. These are kind of a winter bird, late fall winter bird when they show up. They're going to be thick profiled. This is the world's largest falcon. Once every handful of years we might get a gyr falcon, but it's a rare treat when they do show up. Once every many, many years, we've had a few records of prairie falcon as well. Kind of like a peregrine falcon, but they have dark wing pits. Everyone see that? This inner wing is very dark. It's the darkest part of the underwing is the wing pit area. They come from the prairies, western prairies, central prairies. They're usually associated once every many, many years when they do show up with strong west front that'll blow them in this direction too. And we've had one Mississippi kite counted this fall. Probably is the one kite counted this fall. They're more of a central and southern raptor species, and with just persistence and looking for the right things, once in a while we'll get one of these sleek and slender birds coming through. All right, so for the last few minutes, we have some quizzes coming up, okay? Doing this with a smile, mind you, so. First of all, how about this one right here? Here's some kestrels. Male kestrel. Now, how do you know this is a kestrel? Face, yep. Contrast.
Reddish.
Yeah, reddish. You got the reddish blush, yep. Good. Very, very skinny wings, skinny handed. Yep. American.
Would they be here in December in this area?
Not likely. They're going to be south of the Northwoods for sure. Some will overwinter, maybe Twin Cities to Stevens Point, if you know that general latitude. But in general, most of them leave for a little less deeply frigid areas, typically. Again, we can do some obvious ones, some less common ones. But truly, though, part of the reason why I'm showing this bird is that we talked about this species does not always look like this, right? It takes them 5 years before they look this crisp. So here we have a bald eagle. Now what are we talking about? How did you guys know red-tailed hawk? And it is a red-tailed hawk, yeah.
Dark area.
Yep, it's got the patagial mark, very good.
The belly band.
Belly band, and a little bit of a little wrist palm up there. Very good. Kind of thick in all regards too. Thick wing, thick-handed. Uh-oh, what's going on here? And part of it, just by the positioning alone, this one is known for being a little sassy in flight. These are a little quick to flush in flight.
Yeah.
They're both falcons, first of all.
Is this?
There may be repeats. There might not be. We're just going to throw it out there.
Is the on the right is a merlin?
Yep. How do you know it's a merlin?
Which
The one on the right. Very dark toned overall.
It's the male one who's got the white lights.
Christmas lights.
Yep. And this one's got the Christmas lights, black and white mask.
But it's the male.
It's a kestrel. American kestrel on the left. Merlin on the right. Kind of a weird angle, but just something to note about their wing shape. And the overall paleness on a kestrel versus the darker merlin. Broad-winged hawk. It is a booty out, mostly wings, Little bit of tail, black and white band. Yep, very good, very good. Pointed wingtips. Oh my. It's like we have migration right in front of us right now. Vulture. Turkey vulture. Got some ospreys. Yep. Osprey with kind of the two-toned, very pale midsection, dark purple patches, long wings. How about this one up here? This one is a tricky one at a distance. I think it's a boodio or falcon. See, the wings look like knives to you. Maybe we have different butter knives or knives in the kitchen. Yeah, so the knife-like profile is a good thing to look for with falcons. From way far away, you have like hundreds of little gray and white bands going through the underbelly. They look white at a distance. It's got the shape. And it is a peregrine falcon, just to let you know. This is a peregrine falcon way up in the atmosphere. Gray in the underwings, pale bellied. This one's tricky. Haven't seen too many of these yet this fall. Yet. Was that you, Steve, that was it? Yeah. Yep, it's the rough-legged hawk. Crooked wings, dark purple patch right here. Kind of like a red-tailed hawk, but more angular, curvy wing profile. Flap, 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 glide. Flap, 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 glide. Tiny head, squared off tail. Sharp-shinned hawk. Nice one, Greg. Nice one, everyone. Yep. Stocky hands. How did you know? I tell you. Yeah, it's a red-tailed hawk. Yep. Beautiful red-tailed hawk too. Lots of colors and markings. Okay, I think we're nearing the end of the quiz, birds. This is not one of our first of the season looked like a few days ago. Yeah, structurally you were exactly right. This large winged raptor has a small head. Everyone see that?
So it's a golden eagle?
Give you a moment.
So,
It's okay. Blurting is welcome. Yeah. The tail. Well, the tail is kind of tricky because it's fanned out. You see this big white area right here in the whole mid wing? That's a juvenile golden eagle. The inner half of their tail is white, outer half is black. Both of these are bald eagles. Yeah, they get kind of messy with this underwing profile. And then the dump ball.
So just going back to the golden eagle, because it had white but on the top. Am I looking at it from the bottom? Yes. So it didn't have the white right in the area, but it had white.
Of all the things, which I said is factual and I promise, this bird is molting just a little bit, and it must have been a windy day where the underside of the fluff came. Okay. But from 99.9% of all golden eagle views, they will always be black in that area. It's just a weird exception.
That's what was confusing.
Yeah. Don't even worry about this mid-body area.
Okay.
Yep. This clean, crisp white flare through the mid-wing and the white inner tail is only found on golden eagles when they're young.
When they are young.
When they are young.
So it was an immature one then.
It was an immature, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember them as being dark.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the adults are all dark.
Yeah. Okay.
And then just saying too, there's places that we experience in our lives that have made profound impacts on just who we are, our enjoyment of the outdoors and everything. I know a lot of us have had just magical moments of many sorts, and I'm grateful to be one of those too, of just having had kind of life-changing experiences at Hawk Ridge. I definitely recommend a visit during this fall. There still are a lot of birds coming through. And last thing, I always end every one of my talks with a plug on conservation. If you want to help birds right now on the current day, down to this very day in October, at night, turn your lights out. There are still thousands upon thousands of birds, even tonight actually, with the northern lights and everything. There are thousands of birds that are going to be flying over our yards all night long tonight with the good, cool conditions. And birds use the stars as an overhead map. So if you turn off your lights outside, you allow the birds to focus on making their way south safely without bringing them into our neighborhoods middle of the night when they're migrating. Drinking bird-friendly coffee goes a long way. Organic, shade-grown, helps a lot of birds that have migrated through here already in their wintering grounds. And if you plant native, like mountain ash berries with this gluttonous robin, you help a lot of songbirds by planting native in your yards. So I just want to say thank you again for your attention and participation and being here tonight.
How many hawk observation areas are there in the States?
In the States?
Yeah, Cape May, Pennsylvania, here, where else?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I used to work in Texas for a few years at a place called Corpus Christi. You get a few 100,000 raptors per season there because it's the bottom of the funnel that goes through there. Florida Keys Hawk Watch. There's Bonnie Butte out west. There's Golden Gate Hawk Watch. There's all sorts. Many states have hawk watches. Some are more topography based. Some are more water based. But there's actually quite a few hawk watches out there. Actually, in I think it's a week and a half into November, there's Hawk Migration Association of North America has picked Hawk Ridge for their 50th anniversary celebration, and it's basically hawk experts, hawk counters, raptor enthusiasts from corners of the states that are going to be meeting here in Duluth to participate in raptor talks, hawk watching and all. And there's going to be a lot of people that represent other hawk watches at that conference, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there's quite a few of them. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes.
What kettles might I have seen? Again, I'm a transplant and an amateur. Years ago, I looked up on, and I'll remember the date was October 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And what kettles might that have been?
Probably turkey vultures.
Oh,
It could have been red-tailed hawks, but for this exact time of year, plus or minus a day, let's say, first 2 weeks of October, or first week in particular, it'll be really good for turkey vultures. And if you see one, you often see other ones that are just kind of free swirling. They're never rushed. I don't think they know how to rush. They just kind of free swirl around together.
yeah.
Yep, very likely turkey vultures for this time of year. Yep. Any other questions?
Well, let's express our gratitude for Erik and his knowledge.